Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Procurement Snapshot. I'm your host, Jessica Spicher, and today I'm joined by Mert Erkan, who's one of our vice presidents here in North America. Mert, thank you for joining us. It's great to have you.
Thanks, Jessica. Great to be here.
So, before we get into our topic for today, maybe you could take a couple minutes just to speak about the type of work that you do with our clients here at Efficio.
Sure. I am one of our leaders in private equity and M&A space. I manage some of our key private equity relationships, partnerships we have, and spending lots of time with their portfolio companies, designing, and more importantly, executing value creation programs.
Perfect. And I think you are the ideal person with which to have this conversation today, which is really going to be all about some of the lessons that we've learned from private equity when it comes to maximizing synergy potential in M&As. So I think what we've observed is that we're expecting M&A and some of these carve-out activities to just continue to increase, given some of the developments in the global economy, including supply chain challenges, just an increasing pressure on profit margins, and then just expectations around organic growth. This is a podcast about procurement and supply chain. So my first question to you, Mert, would really be, why is procurement and supply chain a relevant topic for an organization that's going through a major merger or acquisition?
Procurement and supply chain often represent 25 to 50% of the total synergy potential, obviously depending on the industry and specific investment case. The opportunities are high for many industries from like healthcare, manufacturing, even high growth technology businesses. You can increase your EBITDA by 25 to 35%. And in addition, as we all know, increasingly for a lot of businesses, their growth is highly driven by their partners, by their supply chains today. Therefore, it definitely requires a strategic focus. And as you said, given the pressure on the profit margins, today's companies paying more and more attention capturing the procurement and supply chain synergies. At the same time, it is still shocking to me how many board members, management teams still struggling to prioritize procurement and supply chain on their agenda items in many of the M&A cases, and then paying the price basically over time is what I see. For a long time, private equity has been focused on capturing these benefits, and you can see this in the M&A success ratios when you compare PE-owned assets versus non-PE companies. The number of M&As which fail outside of the PE is higher. And this often results in, yes, capturing the synergies, but also enables you managing your risks and operational stability effectively.
I think it's a really interesting point you raised, Mert, around that ratio of the PE backed organizations being much more successful in this space, even versus some of the larger corporates. And obviously the approach isn't going to be identical. It's going to be very case by case. What is it that private equity is doing exceptionally well when it comes to capturing these synergies?
One, making sure that the procurement and supply chain is one of the management priorities. There is active sponsorship support from CEO, COO, CFO, CIO. Second, identifying synergies pre-closure in a clean room environment and sizing these opportunities with sufficient details and facts. And how we often help peer companies at this stage pre-closure is build a combined third-party spend visibility and start comparing the supply network, vendors, terms, start thinking about the team's readiness to make sure that the combined entity will be ready from day one to start executing these synergies. And third, making sure the correct capabilities and capacity are in place to deliver maximum value and act on the required organizational changes on a timely basis. This approach basically enables delivering value to the bottom line from day one, and it builds a lot of momentum to the overall M&A case at the management and at investors level, proving the success, proving the speed and the scale of the synergy you can drive. With this proactive approach, you really avoid wasting time to do your planning after the closure, and you avoid confusion on the organizational side. And that often yields into, yes, capturing the benefits, synergies, but also managing your risks and operational stability much better, as you mentioned previously.
It makes a lot of sense. And I know that you see this day in and day out with our client. There's just a lot of value in thinking about what private equity is doing and then how that could potentially translate outside of the private equity space as well. So we could talk about this all day. I don't know that everybody else would want to, but you and I could certainly talk about this all day. But in the interest of just keeping our commitment to this being bite-sized pieces of information. So thank you, Mert, for joining us today. I know that you're seeing this day in and day out with our clients, so really appreciate you taking the time to share some of what you've seen in the way of success stories with private equity, so others can start to think about how they might be able to take this forward for other organizations as well. So we'll wrap the discussion for today. So thank you so much, Mert, and thanks to all of our listeners for joining us on Procurement Snapshot, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.